Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to this interview for the upcoming book of Poems from the Heart, published by Rada's Publishing House. And my name is Care, your host. And today I am being greeted and also have the beautiful opportunity of interviewing Emmanuel Itier. So thank you for joining me today, Emmanuel. It's so nice to have you here. Would you mind starting off with just introducing yourself a little bit?
Yes. Who is Emmanuel Itier? What is he about? That's a good question. I'm still trying to figure it out. So I'm from France, obviously, with that silly accent. I moved to the US in 1988 after meeting with a woman on the plane and fell in love and moved here where I still live in Santa Barbara. I'm 57, just divorced, sadly, 20 years of marriage and bye-bye. She left me for another man. That happens. It's not always a guy leaving the woman. Sometimes it's, the opposite. I've got 3 boys, 19, 12, and 10. And today, after, almost 35 years in the US, I do several things. Yes, I am a poet because actually it all started with a poem. I was 15 in a class of math and couldn't understand a thing of what was demonstrated on the blackboard because at the time, the teacher were writing with a charcoal on the blackboard. And my mind, for some reason, translated the formula into a poem. Qui est-il? Who is he? So I guess it was my first existentialist crisis at 15. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm issue of a pretty bourgeois family. My dad is a doctor, my mother a teacher. And definitely I knew I didn't want to be a teacher, not a doctor. I always been fascinated by movies. I'm that type of guy that was raised in front of a TV. My parents were very young when they got me, so they put me in front of the TV as soon as I was born. So I think, I see the world in images. And anyway, that poem came to be born out of nowhere. And then that same night, I dreamt the poem in vivid images, in a sequence, in a short movie. So I'm like, what the heck? Am I possessed? I guess so. And so I went back and talked with friends, and friends said, hey, well, why don't you shoot it? And at the time we used to have like big video camera with cassette. So it was a bit complicated to find the camera, to get a crew together. But we did it, and it was my first short when I was 15. I showed that to my parents, who were horrified. It was kind of a story of a guy almost committing suicide and watching Pink Floyd The Wall. So it was very bizarre, called The Cage. And but that was it. And then I didn't stop. So jump, 42 years after, since I was 15, I'm 57. And now I'm still directing, I'm still producing commercial documentaries on big subject matter like women, God. I love to tackle little subject. I'm always interested. But the reason is because, I really think we are a beautiful puzzle of 8 billion people. And if everybody will stop thinking they are in competition with each other and realize we all have unique attribute, we're all a unique prototype, and we have amazing skill, and we are an amazing idiot most of the time. So it's about really helping each other, being of service to each other, figuring out what are my skill, how can I help you, and vice versa. And so today I do that. I explore through documentaries ways of communicating with each other, for complementing each other. But I direct also silly movies like Scarecrow, Attila, which are horror movies. And I buy movies and sell movies for different French and American companies. I'm also a journalist for a couple of French media, so I interview movie stars. And I still write poetry, much less. The flux of poems of poetry somewhat abandoned me a few years ago. I think when we started to have a kind of a weird dynamic with my ex-wife, and I don't know, there's something. So maybe it's gonna come back now that I'm alone, because poets are a very lonely soul in a way. I think that's how we create of the inner torment. And yes, so that's all of the above. And also lately, 2 years ago, I launched a political party in France because I had the mad ambition of being the next president of France, which didn't happen, but I reserved myself the choice of running again, maybe in 3 years. We'll see. So that's in a nutshell who the crazy Emmanuel Itier is.
I love it. I love it. And what's amazing is just how you're able to talk about yourself in such a lighthearted way. For, for somebody who's touched
Yeah,
on such light subjects in movies and in film.
yeah. You learn to de-dramatize your very dramatic life after years of practice. I'm also an anger management specialist certified by the cops of Santa Barbara. So maybe that skill as well allows me to always be very calm, very focused, very lighthearted indeed, and trying to be a serious man, but don't take myself seriously. Do serious things without, having a big fat head. Even so, I do have one. Everybody has an ego, but it's in check and fairly in control.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I wanted to ask you, so you have talked about how poetry was basically the root of realizing that you were a creative, and then your film grew from there. Are there any writers or artists or filmmakers who you feel have influenced all of your creativity and particularly your poetry?
Yeah, I mean, the movie that I think triggered that creative thread in me was a movie I went to see at 15, just before that incident in class of math, and it was during the Cannes Film Festival. It's a movie called Birdie with Nicolas Cage and Matthew Modine from Alan Parker, who's deceased now. But it was really a movie about a young man coming back from the Vietnam War and figuring out who he is. And it's called Birdie because he's actually in a asylum when the movie starts, and he's pretending to be a bird because he always been obsessed about being about birds. And I think for some reason that movie really triggered something within my brain. We don't really know what triggers us, what awaken us. And I always say that. I think the next revolution is going to be the revolution of the mind, when really the mind of everybody is triggered and is awakened. Right now, I see so many people who are so passive, enslaved by their mind. They are in a mind jail, and they don't know who they are. They don't know what they can do, and they've been put there. I think we are a very fascist society that try to always lock you into a box, put you a name tag, and say that's it. Behave, just believe, surrender, that's it, this is your life. And I exaggerate a little bit, but it is true. It's very hard to find yourself. And on top of that, you have layers of cultural challenges, religious sometimes challenges that put you down even more. So it's not easy, but Birdie was definitely the movie that triggered that inspiration. And then along the way, there are other filmmakers like Luc Besson. The Big Blue was a big influence on me. Jean-Jacques Benet's Betty Blue, definitely. And then there's some weird movie. I have no idea why they had this impact on me, like The Crow from Alex Proyas, with the deceased Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee. And then sometimes there is even some silly movie such as Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise. I don't know why, but I so identified to Tom Cruise in Jerry Maguire, this rebel, this independent soul trying to be his own man. So maybe that's why. So that's in a nutshell the influences. And as far as a poet, I love Bukowski. He's totally crazy. He's kind of a pervert at time, and I am a pervert and crazy, definitely. Again, as long as it's in check and it's not abusive, there's nothing wrong about balancing sex with health and with everything else. But Bukowski definitely. And then Rimbaud, the French poet, he was nutcase, went to Africa and died over there of syphilis. But that's Le Bateau Ivre. That's one of my favorite poems. And actually, I think that's a poem that allowed me to graduate because I was tested on it, and I made it by really just an inch to graduate. It took me 3 years. So I'm not a very academic type of guy. I'm more smart, street smart. That's it. Not very intelligent, but very smart. That's me.
I totally feel you on the street smarts.
That's how you survive, by the way. When you're
So,
too intelligent, you're locked into your mind, and you just are the quote, I am I think therefore I am, but most of the time you don't do anything because you get caught up with your thoughts as a vicious circle. And I always say, it's all about thinking, for being, for doing. So I think, therefore I am, therefore I do.
I love it. And from what you had talked about too, it sounds like two of the movies were bird related. So I wonder if you were a bird in a past life.
Maybe I'm still a bird, maybe I've got wings and I don't see them. I'm convinced that if we could use a little bit more than 2 or 3% of our mind, we could fly, why not?
Exactly. Exactly. And bringing it into your poetry, the poems that you have shared in the book, what are the emotions or what is it that you would like for the readers when they read your poems to feel?
So I'm the type of guy who fall in love with a woman every second. But I was focused every time I've been married for first time 5 years and second time 20 years to be focused on that particular woman. But so most of my poetry is written in between women, and that's when my heart is broken for some degree, or when I try to get I've got a fantasy on a lady and there is no response. So I don't know. It tortures me. It tortures my soul. So everything is written uh, under some level of pain, some level of torment, some level of sadness. I think at the end I always try to make the end of the poem a bit uplifting and positive because I'm a man of hope. If not, I would have killed myself a long time ago. But there is definitely a dark side in within my soul, and it's trying to heal. And poetry is a way of healing your soul in a way. It's a therapy. It's a self-therapy. It's about shouting all of your pain on the paper, of writing it with your blood soul in a way. So that's what people have to understand when they read a poem. It's a journey of a broken soul who's trying to find the light again.
Mhm. Exactly. I love that. That's very similar to the poems that I've also put in. For me, though, it was actually more around self-love after having gone through breakups. And like you were talking about before, coming back to myself and refinding myself. So it's beautiful how words and just creativity, be it words, imagery, art, gives us that ability to be creative.
Right. Well, I think that's what keeps us going and keeps us alive. I think a lot of people, if you analyze this, they always talk about midlife crisis. Midlife crises occur when somebody's soul and mind is really locked and has never been awakened. So they are in a situation, then usually in their mid 40s or late 40s, and they are not happy because they are not where they should be. And so eventually they snap. And then the worst thing happened. In my case, she snapped and she got a boy toy 15 years younger than her and left for no reason with 3 kids and everything. And worse, even built a narration of violence, of abuse, which was obviously exposed in court and debunked. And she lost it all at the end. She ended up having nothing of what she wanted and lost all of her money. So it's insane how some people go through some midlife crisis because they've never been where they wanted to be. But at some time it's crazy because a lot of these people are usually surrounded with a lot of love, and they just start denying that it's love. They start thinking they cannot breathe anymore. So it's crazy. The mind really fucks you up, if you're not careful. And I'm lucky. I always been where I wanted to be and do what I wanted to do. And my only anguish, I've got two anguish in life, not enough having money to pay for my basic bills and feed my kids. And that's a struggle, especially as an artist. And that's why I do all this job, because it's really, really hard to come up, every month with a rent here in Santa Barbara, which is $4,000. I need 7,000 every month. Imagine the amount of work I need to produce to get that. It's insane. It's a big anguish. It's a big pressure. But I've done it for the last 35 years that I live here. And then the other anguish is to end up in a horrible car accident or have a stroke and be paralyzed on the bed and still have my mind. That would be the ultimate jail. I think that's the ultimate fear of being totally paralyzed. You cannot do anything, but your mind is sharp, totally sharp and focused, and you go mental because you can't do anything.
Yeah.
So But yeah, midlife crisis, it's a big topic, especially today. I mean, we see it. I think humanity is in a midlife crisis. I mean, look at the level of war, of poverty, of absurd fight. I mean, it's insane. We have never had such an abundance of money, of energies, of water, of everything we need to have a beautiful planet of peace and love. But what we don't have is conscious, driven, full of humanity leaders. They are all gangsters. They are bastards who wake up every day and say, "Hey, look at me! I'm the Sun King, and I'm gonna show you what to do. And I've got the biggest dick, and so I'm gonna show you who is the strongest. And you have to follow me and behave, or I'm gonna send you my missile and my nukes." And it's ridiculous. I don't even know how these people can sleep at night. I mean, really, I cannot sleep until there is every single children fed and women not beaten and sex trafficked. I cannot sleep. I won't stop. That's why I do politics. Politics come from politics, and it's for the people. These people are not politicians. They are mobsters. They are gangsters. They are living shame. They make me want to vomit. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I lost it.
Don't worry, it's all good. It's a beautiful place of expression. And today, actually, we have something going on in astrology where we have something with Mercury and with the sun, that when they come together, Mercury is the planet of expression and it's in Gemini. So it's all about expression today. So let it flow.
Absolutely.
And going on that, with everything that is going on in the world today, and as you said too, just side note, personally, I also don't know how so many people sleep at night with everything that they're committing and also doing. How do you feel that our book, Poems from the Heart, can bring a little bit more love and or light into what we're experiencing today?
Well, again, poetry definitely heals your soul, and writing in general. It's funny how when you read, your mind definitely creates different feeling that you don't get from watching a movie or a painting. There is something with the neuronic connection when you read words, and so depending of the word that you read, and poetry usually is beautiful, even so it can be sad, but it's a beautiful sadness. I think in a way it triggered some light, some hope, something inside you that awakens, and you don't get that when you read, for example, a thriller or a drama. It's poetry. It's its own beast. It's a beautiful beast, that a creature that charm you, that puts a spell on you. So that's so it is different from any other form of writing, I think.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. And during your time of helping with the poems that are going into the book, how has your experience with Radha's publishing house been?
I know Radha forever. It feels like we're all soulmates. Her and her mother. They've been both participants of the documentaries I've done. Her mother, I think, was first in a movie called FEMME, Women Healing the World, and then they were together in another movie that I did called The Cure, Healing the Mind, Healing the Body, Healing the Planet. So it's been a beautiful friendship and loveship with her for a long time. And when she proposed me, I don't know, even know, I think she didn't know I was writing poetry. And I forgot we were exchanging email or messages. And I don't know, it popped up. And I sent her a book of poem. And she said, "Oh my God, I didn't know you had this talent. Do you want to be published?" And I'd never been published for some reason. And never thought about it. I don't know. These were poems I was giving to the women I was courting, or the women I was with, family members that I cared for. So it was really kind of a personal relationship with these poems that I had with direct one-on-one people. And now, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it's time. I've got, I don't know, over 200 poems, something like this. So I think we're going to do a full book probably. And then I'm talking with Radha and trying to figure it out.
I love that. And it's such a cool feeling to do something new. For myself, it's also the first time that I'm being published, and I feel like it's something that like, I'm sure for you, when you did your first movie, it was a really big experience. And for me, I'm an artist. The paintings behind me are mine. And
Okay. Oh,
so, yeah. So the first time that I did a gallery showing, it's just such a different feeling. So it'll be really cool for both of us to be able to feel that new experience of being
sure.
published.
And actually, I realized some of my poems have been published, but it's interesting. So when I started to direct movies, I thought, okay, I need music, and to license music, it's very expensive. But I used to manage and promote bands, punk rock bands in Santa Barbara in the early '90s and mid '90s. And so I approached this band and I say, let's create some original songs. And they're like, okay, well, do you have some lyrics? And I'm like, I've got all these poems. And they started to dig into it. And so actually I did publish 3 albums of music, which are entirely made from my poems, lyrics created from my poems, and they all are on iTunes. And I put a lot of these songs into most of my movies. And actually, I just finished one on water. It's called H2O, The Intelligence of Water. And we did put a song called Wave, which is a poem about the ocean, about wave, about being fluid. So it was perfect. So in a way, yeah, I realize now I've been published in a different form, but not in a book form, but for sure.
So cool. And that's a realization that I also had 2 weeks ago was I was reading through one of my poems and realized I think this is a song and not a poem. So it's really interesting that there's that it's such a like it's a lyrical thing, but at the same time there's such a fluidity between all of the arts in such a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you write poetry, I mean, you're listening to your muse, who is kind of singing to you. So there is definitely a rhythm and a musicality about writing poetry. And I think the what differentiates the poem that are going to really makes you feel and not make you feel are the poem who are loaded with that fluidity, with that rhythm, with that musical sense. Because it's like the music that charmed the snake. It's a little bit that. It's the soul is a snake that needs to be charmed and awakened, and the musicality that arises from poems is definitely that intense chain reaction that awakens something in you.
Mhm. Absolutely. And could you describe working with Rada and Rada's publishing house in one word?
Beautiful, gorgeous.
I love that. That's
Like she
exactly,
is,
yeah, she is.
like you are.
Beautiful. Thank you. She attracts very beautiful beings.
Aren't we lucky?
Yeah. And would you be willing to share one of your poems with our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I selected something that I think sum up life. I think we're all born with a fate and we die with a destiny. So fate it's a game of cards that's given to you at the beginning of your life. You don't choose to be born who you are. You're born with a certain sex, some certain mental attributes, some emotion, some feeling, a culture, a religion, an environment, a country. So that's your fate. You have to start somewhere, and you didn't really decide on that. Even so, we can speculate about that. But definitely, with that fate, you embrace a journey, and that journey becomes eventually a destiny. So I wrote, "Born with a fate, die with a destiny." We are born with a fate and die with a destiny. We are born with a fate and die with a destiny. Dreaming under the sky of the burning tears, wandering where is the cemetery of our buried fears, taking off with the full moon and the repented cross, wondering why our life is but an empty loss. And we give a meaning to the meaningless echo, and we walk to the edge of our fatal blow. What the fuck, my love? Are we so goddamn lost? What the fuck, my love? You and I and the Holy Ghost. We are born with a fate and die with a destiny. We are born with a fate and die with a destiny. Jumping in a transatlantic plane out of gas, wondering where is the destiny for our atomic skies, taking off with a cocktail mix and the seven sins picture, wondering why our life is but a nonsense torture. And we give a meaning to the meaningless whispering, and we walk to the edge of our mortal being. What the fuck, my love? Are we so goddamn lost? What the fuck, my love? You and I and the Holy Ghost. We are born with a fate and die with a destiny. We are born with a fate and die with destiny. Writing in blood ink the blessing of our children, wondering where is the gate of the promised heaven, taking off with a souvenir gallery and a blind faith, wondering why our life is but a sexy flirt with death. And we give a meaning to the meaningless jerking, and we walk to the edge of our soul aching. What the fuck, my love? Are we so goddamn lame? What the fuck, my love? You and I and the holy fame. We are born with a fate and die with a destiny. We are born with a fate and die with a destiny. No more fatality, just a happy fucking ending.
That was absolutely beautiful. I had to receive that with my eyes closed. That was wonderful. I love that. It is so interesting because it reminded me of one of my poems. I'm talking about the shadow in my poems as well. And it just brings up that what I love is that it brings up that life is very messy in a way. And that if we're not necessarily fully accepting all of ourselves, and if others aren't fully accepting all of ourselves, then that mess can happen and the what the fuck start.
Well, life is chaos, and it's really on a molecular level. Quantum physics shows that we are just an intertwined ensemble of molecules. So that's God for you. It's all is God, and God is all. It's oneness. It's all the molecules in constant interaction. And I think depending of the energy that you have and the energy you send, you can create more chaos or you can create more peace. If I say to you, I love you, wow, that's going to awaken an amazing feeling, and there's something happening. It's a peaceful atomic fusion. But if I say, you know what, fuck you, bitch, see how you feel, see the anger, the triggering, the molecule being raped, what's happening. And that's the problem we have today. We have so many people saying fuck you to each other, constantly attacking, raping, conquering, killing, that we have this chaos. And it could be a beautiful dance, but right now it's a sad chaos because all the molecules that are attacking the peaceful molecules, well, either you take it and you end up being killed, or you defend yourself. And by defending yourself, you become some sort of a violent creature yourself. And so it's really violence creating more violence. And at the end, there is a resolution at one point. It's like settling a divorce, which that just did. So at the end, okay, the violence kind of stopped, but not really. It's within. And what's left is really a burned heaven. It's a heaven that has been put into a hell phase, and it will never heal, depending on the degree of violence, depending on the degree of attack, depending on the degree of lies and abuses of both sides. So it cannot heal, and people will think, oh, with time it heals. I don't think it heals. It's masked, it's covered. It's like when the ground burns and it's all dust, and it's something is growing back eventually, but it's not the same. What has been burned and killed is burned and killed forever. So you can have a new life, which is exactly what I have now, but it's a life carrying a lot of sadness, a lot of inner rape. It's horrible. Half of me is dead forever. It will never come back. What will come back is a different Emmanuel, but it's not the old Emmanuel, the happy family man that I was. So it's I wish people, when they start doing things and they start manipulate and lying to each other and controlling and taking over, I wish they had the consciousness of the consequences it's going to create, because it's like a domino effect. You push the first domino and you never know when is the last domino is going to fall. And by the way, all these dominoes would have failed and they're never going to be standing up the same way. It's like breaking a teacup, and you can put it back together, but it's still broken. It's a broken teacup. So you can drink from it, but it's broken. It feels it within its own molecules. So, that's the story of humanity. We've been at war with each other for too many eons. And I wish someday, people again, mind is awakened and full of peace and love, and realize there is no point to kill each other. There is no point to lie to each other, to manipulate, to rape, to kill. The only point of life is to love and create. If you don't understand that, I feel sad for you. And I hope someday you become awakened,
Mhm. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was so profound and 100% true. And just how there's so much that wants to come up right now, but like how what you were saying about we're broken. The thing that for myself I've always visioned is there's that scar that forms over top, but it's never the perfect skin that it was. It's never the like we're born, we'll say scarless, and then we die with our scars on our vessel. And our soul might still have them into our next life, but our mind, our mind and our vessel ends up passing with those wounds. And
Oh yeah,
mhm.
it's a big trauma. Basically, you're traumatized for life, and the only way you're gonna make it is by accepting you're traumatized for life. The people who say, "Oh no, I'm fine. No, no, I'm not mad. No, no, I'm not angry," and they're full of shit. They are in denial, and that becomes really dangerous people because they are capable of everything. Because what they've done, they have castrating all feelings, all senses of humanity. So these are just serial killers who are gonna. They are psychopath. Psychopath. It's exactly the definition of the psychopath. They don't even realize anything. They can't. They are blinded by their own lies. It's insane, and I see it so many times. The world is full of psychopaths. It's crazy, and some of our leaders are psychopaths. I mean, I'm sorry if people don't think Trump at some level is not a psychopath. I think you're blinded. I don't get it. Something with Putin. I mean, there are something with Xi Jinping. I mean, there are some leaders. They are insane. They are just and for them it's normal because they cannot see. They are in mind jail and they've got so much trauma that they carry. Look at Trump. Trump always been an abused child and very dominated by his dad. So what do you think it creates? It raped him. It cannot be anything but who he is. I get it. I've got a lot of compassion in a way because I can put myself in his soul and see the darkness. But you cannot heal that darkness because it's so deep. It's something with the person I used to be with. She carried so much trauma since she's a child. It's unhealable, and now there's a new trauma created from that divorce. So that creates even more trauma. So you add one layer and another layer and another layer. The poor creature is fucking lost in mind jail forever, and not sure it can be awakened. It can be full of peace and love again. I don't know. I doubt, but time will tell.
Mhm. And as you
It's
said at the beginning, I agree with you in that I feel like the next revolution is going to be around the mind. And we're right now in what, I don't know how much you know about astrology, but we're in Pluto in Aquarius. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the time of the French Revolution, of the American Revolution, and of the Haitian Revolution. And we're in that space right now where in the last few years, I've noticed how many more people are consciously waking up to, instead of just robotically doing things, realizing that they have a mind, they have the ability to choose. And I agree with you that I feel like there's going to be a huge awakening in coming back to self over the next several decades. And I'm hoping that it will continue, but it's definitely, it's right now I feel like we're in a time of testing of humanity where as we're being shown more darkness, the light is also going to rise up to equal it out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I think it's going to take time because right now the chain reaction, the domino effect I was talking about of all these people having raped so many of us, uh, it's unleashed. So I think what we see right now is a planet on the edge of international civil war. Not only in the US, but look at Europe, it's a mess. Africa, obviously, is devastated, it's a mess. Asia, well, is kind of under control because it's a different philosophy. And then China, anyway, is gridlocked by a communist regime, so they cannot do anything. But us liberal democracy are in peril, definitely. And I don't think it's going to get better that soon. And the reason is because it's a problem of math. There are so many serial killers, psychopaths, men and women, who are engaged into destroying each other. And us, yes, we are more and more legion of peacemaker, warrior of lights, but we're not enough yet. So it's gonna. I think we're gonna go through a wave of destruction. Like you said, it's the revolution. The revolution created a lot of death, and so I see death first, and then yes, at the end, when people are gonna be tired of dying, and that maybe when they awaken, it's like, oh my God, I kill everybody, I'm all alone, So they're gonna be forced to awaken. It's within their soul, because again, we're all born good people, and some of us become monsters. But at the root, there is a good cell, and the cell has been contaminated with all this toxicity, this lies, this abuse, this rapes, with negligence. So the beautiful cell is turned into a monster. But because it has a root of beauty within, maybe it can awaken eventually. It's like the devil becoming an angel again. Why not? It was an angel in the mythology, the Christian mythology. So once an angel, forever an angel. You can become a bad angel, but you're still a good person within. Like Trump, deep inside of his cell, is a good person. My ex, deep inside of her cell, is a good person. But all of the trauma, the pain, the violence has created a creature that is lost, that's walking through hell, through the fields of hell. And hopefully, all lights will eventually just blind them with so much love that eventually, yes, the darkness will leave them in vast majority, and light will dictate their new path and their new life. And again, there will be still some darkness, but it will be under control, like it is in us. We are all beautiful evil and beautiful gods and goddesses, So, but we managed to bring our divine side in the forefront of our being and leave the darkness within deep. It's like Nietzsche's saying there is a monster within all of us. Of course there is. But most of us, not enough, but some of us manage to keep it in check and in control. A lot of people can't. They can't. They need help. And right now, nobody's helping them. They surround themselves of equally monsters and toxic people, and they think they are not compatible with you, but they're compatible with them. No, it's just that you've got so much darkness, you don't see the light anymore. You're blinded by the evil within. So, but so I think on the short term, I'm a very pessimistic guy. On the long term, I'm optimist. I think eventually there will be a new world order with conscious leaders, people like you and I, who come from not the gangster background like we have now, but who eventually will find their way to be elected and rebuild the world, and a united world. I mean, we have a beautiful model, which is a United Nation. We created that after the Second World War. Is it useful? Absolutely not. It's a joke. It's costing a damn load of money, and everybody's laughing at it. But the model is beautiful because that's what it should be. Every day, and we can do that with Zoom, every day, all the world leaders should Zoom each other at the beginning of the day or end of the day and say, hey, this is the agenda. Who's got oil? Who's got gold? Who's got water? Who's got, okay, let's fair trade. Okay. Oh, you need some extra people because your natality is and your population is aging and you don't have enough young people. Okay, we send you some people to work over there. Really, it's a perfect puzzle. I did 20 years of traveling the world, making all these documentaries about our humanity, and I've seen it. The world is there. It just need to be seized and rebuilt and reorganized and restructured. But everything is there. So it's just, again, we have blind leaders. They are blinded by their ego. They are psychopaths. So it's going to take time, but I've got faith. And faith comes from a Latin verb, which is fidere, which means to trust. So you need to trust that you've got this strength to keep going. That's faith. That's not a religious, hijack word. Faith, we're all faith. We're all creatures of faith and of spirit. And spirit come from a spiritu, which means the breath. So we are all breathing creatures, and we need to breathe trust to each other. I love you, and not fuck you, fuck you.
Exactly. What would be the last little, we'll say, nugget of knowledge that you would like to leave our viewers with today?
Just go and find yourself, It's time. Enough suffering, enough despair, enough hate. Just, I love you. Say to everybody you meet, and just find yourself. Be yourself. Be the one you really want to be. And it's hard work. And, it's not going to be easy every day. I mean, there are days I wake up and I feel like, can I really wake up? Can I get out of bed? No, I mean, it's up and down. Life is a roller coaster. So fasten your mind belt and keep surfing, babies.
Love that. Thank you so much. Thank you for your knowledge, your wisdom, your time. Thank you for being a part of this book. And I really look forward to reading your poems when they do come out. And for all of you viewers, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Please be sure to check out the new book, Poems of the Heart, coming out to read Emmanuel's poems. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Peace and love in oneness. I love you. Let's heal the world. Let's do it.
Let's do it.